In terms of the music, then there has been in your bio. It's written that that's kind of going back to the more rock elements and also an exploration of electronic music. So was this something new for you, this electronic side?
I've always had remixes that I've
Mm-hmm.
done for, I mean, since I began putting out records, I was also putting out remixes. And, but the way that those things are integrated, I think has always been a challenge. And I, I wanted this album to be such that the music could be played outside. And I think in the past I've been much more intimate and thinking of concert hall settings where the acoustics are such that you can do something that's very, very detailed and it's going to translate. But when you're outside, the gestures have to be bigger and you can't get away with like this sort of filigree of like small details. So synthesizers is like a sort of obvious thing to do when you're outside because you're plugging it in. It's not dealing with an acoustic instrument.
And what was it for you then? This change, did it come out of wanting to play festivals or wanting to have that kind of atmosphere in your music?
Well, part of my job is having the right song for the right moment. And I'm in so many different kinds of situations. One day I'm in a concert hall, the next day I'm in a club, the next day I'm at a museum, the next day I'm at a festival outside. So you want to be able to provide what each opportunity like asks for, and so I think it's it comes from that desire of like just being in all these different situations and enjoying each of them for what they are.
Well, you mentioned these different type of outlets in a way. You do, aside from My Brightest Diamond, you do a lot of other things as well, a lot of different side projects. So is this something you need to have this diverse palette, as it were?
I've worked with so many different people from filmmakers and new classical composers and writing music for plays and just doing lots and lots of different kinds of things. And it's always stimulating anytime that you go into a different medium because the proportions of music and another art form, like whether it's theater or whether it's dance or, you know, the ratio of whether the music takes a supporting role or whether it's like, you know, just dealing with the proportions in these different forms. It's fascinating, and you learn something from studying other people, from working with other people, and then you bring that to your own creative output.
And do the lines then blur in a sense where, as you said, for one song, the song plays a different role than in a different setting. So when you compose music or when you write music, do these roles in a sense then blend?
It depends on the situation, right? And that's what you're always playing with in a play. Well, how important is the music, or is the theater important? Does the music take precedence? I think the Matthew Barney and Jonathan Bepler piece, River of Fundament, is so fascinating because the music is not subservient to a kind of narrative in a typical way that you have a drama and then a soundtrack that's supporting this film. And in River of Fundament, you see the music and the storytelling takes more of an equal position, much more like in an opera. And sometimes even the music takes precedence. And we are unaccustomed to that when looking at a film. You're used to, okay, well, the music is always subservient. So yeah, where the lines get blurred, I think, is where it gets interesting.
But is this something you look for? Is it something you pursue to keep pushing it, as it were, to not stick to a certain fixed method of doing things, or a fixed the way music is used and even visuals?
Yeah, I think I've made a life choice to be committed to new work happening, whether that's new classical music or, you know, making something new myself. And there's also, I think what's so fascinating about opera, or opera is like all of the art forms put together, you know, and the way the magnitude of that, the effect of that is so powerful that there's always a draw there for me. So with the Decemberists, you know, that was a rock opera. So there's a kind of narrative and a storytelling, and then yeah, just different ways of pushing around how important is a visual or storytelling or the music.
But
That's fun. Yeah.
But I suppose this visual element then is an active component in what you do.
Yeah.
Well, the album title, "This Is My Hand," when in the process did it come up?
Very late.
Because
Yeah.
there is a song on the record with the same name.
Yeah.
So does this song have a certain significance then?
I think what I liked about the title "This Is My Hand" is the song itself is sort of reclaiming of the body, but it also is a way of showing vulnerability. It's you know, all of our hands are obviously unique to each one of us, and it also, I think, connotes a kind of ritualistic symbol. So that sort of encapsulated, in a way, I think that sort of encapsulated this kind of overarching idea for the record.
And this idea is then what you mentioned earlier, that those 6 elements and then building from there?
Yeah, I haven't answered this question but like 3 times today, so I'm still formulating how it goes. Yeah, because there's so many ideas that come in that just distill it to 2 sentences is quite difficult.
Do they, well, maybe this is going in the wrong direction, but when you write these songs, do they then over time change in terms of what they mean as well?
This is the first album that I rewrote lyrics.
Okay.
So I've never ever rewritten lyrics before, but this time I rewrote the lyrics to several of the songs. At least 3 of them changed, and I think it was because I started with a conceptual idea, and then I just realized that it wasn't personal enough somehow, or I wasn't feeling connected to the material. I didn't think it didn't have a vulnerability in it that I thought was necessary. So I had to rewrite the lyrics, and yeah, that was a first.
But I assume then, especially in live performances, this connection is important to convey the necessary level of emotion, or
Well,
or is it, do you approach the live set in the same way, in a sense, as the studio?
yeah, I don't make a distinction between the intellectual and the emotional. I think that it's the same. I think you can, you know, I can sing something about Penelope, you know, the story of Odysseus, and even if it's an intellectual idea, you're also feeling the emotions and the thoughts and the feelings at the same time. So in terms of like, what did you say? Like
Well,
the live show
yeah,
being different.
if your approach to them is different.
I think in every song you're trying to find, okay, what is this? What is this about? Is it a feeling of loneliness or isolation, or in the same way that an actor would approach any text? You know, you're looking for like something tactile with the material that has meaning to you, or that has some kind of passion, or some kind of something universal in it. And so I think, yeah, as an interpreter, you're kind of, no matter if it is a sort of more conceptual idea, you're looking for something that's connecting.
But it's then that makes it a quite a self-reflective process as well, I assume.
I think so. You know what I'm thinking of is like there's Einstein on the beach, you know, and even the way that Einstein on the beach is delivered, it can be quite cold, you know. Or there's this repetition of numbers that's just simply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. And we create these narratives in our minds. We have all of these associations about what these numbers mean or what the sound means. So I think we long for storytelling, and we also project onto anything our own feelings and experiences. So I don't think that work has to be autobiographical to be more authentic or more true.
But at least there has to be some point of reference for you then.
There will be a point of reference. Well, I mean,
Or not even.
I don't know. I don't know that that's required. It's interesting, right? Because we want that to be true in music, but I don't think
it's romantic image.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't think it's necessarily true. We don't apply that same idea to visual art. I love Cy Twombly says he loved making a line just simply for the pleasure of making a line. And I think you can do the same thing in music, that it doesn't have to have... I think that's a product of the last century of Freud, right? That Freud, everything was about the I, it was about the self.
Right.
And 100 years ago, the I isn't in songwriting. The I is not really as prevalent as it became in the last century. Like, we became obsessed with the individual rather than the corporate.
Right.
My equipment has arrived.
Well, you talked about the music industry, that this was kind of a reaction on the question, what is the value of music? And it said also that part of this search for an answer was looking back at your own material and at your own body of work.
I think as a person who loves making records, you know, there came that point where it's like, okay, people are buying records in the same way that they used to, but I love making records, so am I gonna still get to make records in the way that I love? I love the process of being in the studio and the adventure of engineering, and just the whole experience is so delicious. And so there was definitely like that question of, and now what? And how are we going to do this when mastering houses are closing, and when all the studios in New York are closing? Like, what now? What are we going to do? And then in terms of looking at my own it was more just realizing, like, as I said before, like the music from the past records was not made for playing outside.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
All right.